Nathaniel Avila, reporting from Dallas County, and I'm here joined in studio with Jessica, no last name given, and
Hello.
and we're here in the same spot, same place.
Same place?
Yeah, in the same place. We're not over video call.
Yeah. We're together in person.
Yeah. So tell us what is this podcast about?
Well, this is a true crime podcast, but the topic for today is a little bit different, but it's still in the crime realm. So, what are we talking about today?
We're talking about fraud cases.
Yes, we are.
The crimes that rich people do.
Yeah.
Even non-rich people do it a lot. There's a lot of people. So, do you want to go first? Or do you want me to go first?
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, let me spin you a yarn.
Spin it.
I'll spin you a good yarn. The tale of one Cassie Chadwick.
Okay. Give it to me.
Okay, so Chadwick is actually not her real name. It's actually Elizabeth Bigley is her real name. What?
Okay.
Do you know who I'm talking about?
I think so.
Okay. On October 10th, 1857, in Eastwood, Ontario, was where she was born. Her parents, Dan and Annie, owned a small farm in Eastwood. She had three sisters, Alice, Mary, and Emily, and her brother, Bill. Her father worked for the Grand Trunk Railway as a section boss and was often away from the homestead.
Okay.
Betsy, as she was known to her family, was known to daydream and tell fibs as a child. At the age of 14, Chadwick went to Woodstock, Ontario. There, she opened a bank account with a dubious letter of inheritance from an unknown uncle in England and a small amount of cash. While there, Chadwick passed several worthless checks to various merchants. In 1870, she was arrested in Woodstock for forgery. She was released due to her age on the grounds of insanity. Following a 3-year absence, Chadwick returned to Eastwood in 1875 to discover that her sister Alice had married Bill York, a carpenter from Cleveland, and had moved there with him. So Chadwick followed her sister to the United States of America.
Oh.
So after a brief stay with her sister and brother-in-law, Chadwick rented a lower floor of a house at 147 Garden Street, Cleveland, from a Mrs. Brown, claiming to be widowed. Chadwick assumed the name Madame Lydia DeVere, and set up shop as a clairvoyant with funds from a bank loan on her sister and brother-in-law's furniture.
What do you think about clairvoyance?
Do
you think it's legit?
Not really.
So it's already a fraud?
Clairvoyance as like a person as a job, yeah, probably if you're charging money. But you do this whole smoke and mirror show, be all like, I see the future, stare into the crystal ball.
I mean, I understand it if it's legit and real. I hear that if it does take a lot of energy from them, so to go to that place all the time, and not get something out of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I get it.
Now, as for mediums, people who can speak to like the dead and that kind of stuff, now that I can believe that. I can run with that.
Yeah.
People who can do that.
For sure.
In 1882, as Lydia DeVere, Chadwick married a Dr. Wallace S. Springsteen in Cleveland. The couple exchanged vows before a justice of peace in November 21st. She took the name Miss Lydia Springsteen and moved into the doctor's house at 3 Garden Street. A photograph and story of the wedding appeared in the Plain Dealer newspaper.
Okay.
So the article led Chadwick's sister, Alice York, and various tradespeople to the home of Springsteen to demand payment for debts his wife accumulated. After Springsteen confirmed the stories about Chadwick's past, he threw her out of the house. Springsteen filed for divorce, which was granted early in 1883, and settled her debts himself. After the dissolution of her first marriage, Chadwick reestablished herself as a clairvoyant, this time as Madame Marie de LaRose. She remarried a John R. Scott, a farmer from Trumbull County, Ohio. She convinced Scott to sign a prenuptial agreement citing abuse from her first husband. After 4 years of farm life, Chadwick went to a lawyer in Youngstown and left a sworn statement confessing adultery. She directed her lawyer to file divorce from Scott. So, in 1889, Chadwick was convicted and sentenced to 9.5 years in a penitentiary in Toledo for forgery. She was paroled in 1893 and returned to Cleveland.
Okay.
So upon returning to Cleveland in 1893, Chadwick assumed the new name Mrs. Casey Hoover and opened a brothel in the city's west side. At the brothel, she met her next husband, a wealthy widower doctor named Leroy Chadwick. Knowing of the doctor's recent loss, Chadwick played the part as a genteel widow who ran a respectable boarding house for women.
Right. Respectable brothel.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I mean...
Get out of here.
Hey, I mean... Working girls deserve respect as any other people.
Okay.
You're so mean to me. You're so mean to me and your sisters of the night. What?
My sisters of the night.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, so Chadwick responded to the establishment of the... Okay, when Leroy Chadwick responded that the establishment was a well-known brothel, Mrs. Hoover fainted. Once revived, she claimed that she would never run such an establishment. She begged the doctor to immediately take her from the building, lest anyone think she was complicit in its operation. So, she's a real drama queen.
I hate drama queens.
In 1897, Cassie and Leroy were married. During her time as the wife of a highly respected Dr. Chadwick, it was unclear that she knew that she had given birth to a son, an Emil Hoover. It is unclear whether Dr. Chadwick knew that Emil was in the care of one of the women at the brothel. When charged with forgery, Chadwick identified herself in the court records as single with no children. However, in the 1900 United States Census, she identified herself as Casey Chadwick, born February 3rd, 1862 in Pennsylvania. Her son Emil was enumerated as Emil Chadwick, born September 1886 in Canada. Chadwick's spending habits exceeded those of her richer neighbors along Cleveland's Euclid Avenue, then known as Millionaire's Row. Instead of being welcomed into the extensive enclave of the Rockefellers and the Hannahs and the Hayes and the Mathers, Chadwick was thought of as a curious woman who wanted in vain to buy the favors of some of the wealthiest families in the nation. When invited to social events, it was only out of obligation for her husband. Now, we're going to go on to the biggest piece of fraud that she is ultimately known for.
Okay.
So, following her marriage in 1897, Chadwick began her largest, most successful con game. That is establishing herself as Andrew Carnegie's daughter. During a visit to New York City, she asked one of her husband's acquaintances, a lawyer named Dillon, to take her to Carnegie's home. In reality, Chadwick visited Carnegie's housekeeper while ostensibly trying to check the credentials. When Chadwick came back, she dropped a paper. Dillon took it up and noticed it was a promissory note for $2 million with Carnegie's signature. When Dillon promised to keep Chadwick's secret, she revealed that she was Carnegie's illegitimate child. Carnegie was supposedly so racked with guilt that he showered huge amounts of money on her. Chadwick also claimed that there was $7 million in promissory notes tucked away in her Cleveland home, and that she was to inherit $400 million upon Carnegie's death. Dillon arranged a safe deposit box for her document. So the information leaked to the financial markets of northern Ohio, and banks began to offer their services to Chadwick. For the next 8 years, she used her fake background to obtain loans that eventually totaled around $2 million, over $50 million today. Chadwick relied on the assumption that no one would ask Carnegie about the illegitimate daughter for fear of embarrassing him. Since the loans also came with usurious interest rates, the bankers would not admit to granting them. So Chadwick forged securities in Carnegie's name for further proof. Bankers assumed that Carnegie would vouch for any debts and that they would be fully repaid once Carnegie died.
Wow.
So Chadwick carried out a lavish lifestyle as a result of her con. She bought diamond necklaces, enough clothes to fill 30 closets, a golden organ. She became known as the Queen of Ohio. She claimed to give money to the poor and the suffrage movement, but I don't know. On November 1904, Chadwick received a $190,000 loan from Herbert B. Newman, a Brookline, Massachusetts banker. Newton was shocked when he learned of the other loans Chadwick had received and called his loan in. Chadwick could not pay and the bank sued. At the time, she had accumulated debts over $1 million. It was also discovered that a number of securities being held in her various banks were worthless. When Carnegie was later asked about her, he denied ever knowing her and further stated that he had not signed a promissory note in more than 30 years. Chadwick fled to New York, but was soon arrested at her apartment at the Hotel Breslin and was taken back to Cleveland. When she was arrested, she was wearing a money belt containing over $100,000. Leroy Chadwick and his adult daughter hastily left Cleveland for a European tour when the scandal broke. He filed for divorce before leaving on the tour. What?
She's a work of art, this lady.
Okay. The news sent shockwaves through the Cleveland banking community. Citizens National Bank of Oberlin, which had loaned her $800,000, suffered a massive run and forced it into bankruptcy. So Andrew Carnegie attended Chadwick's trial, wishing to see the woman who had successfully conned the nation's banker into believing she was his heir. Other attendees included members of the millionaire's royal families from whom she had tried so hard to gain acceptance. The trial was a media circus. On March 10th, 1905, the Cleveland Court senator sentenced her to 14 years in prison and a fine of $70,000 for conspiracy to bankrupt the Citizens National Bank and conspiracy against the government. Citizens Bank was a federally chartered bank and was an agent of the federal government, so that's how that worked. On January 1st, 1906, Chadwick was sent to Ohio State Penitentiary in Columbus. She brought with her trunks of goods in her prison cell, including clothing, photographs, and furniture. The prison warden allowed this due to her celebrity status.
Boo.
As her health deteriorated, Chadwick began writing explicit instructions for her funeral. She instructed her son, Emil, to send a portion of her hidden funds to Canada for the purchase of a tombstone for the family plot. Chadwick suffered a nervous collapse on September 17th, 1907, leaving her blind. The New York Times reported on October 9th, 1907, that Chadwick was suffering from a heart and stomach problems. Chadwick died in the Columbus Penitentiary October 10th, 1907. She was 50 years old.
Dang.
The funeral service was officiated by Reverend F. W. Thompson. Her interment was October 16th, 1907, in the Episcopal Cemetery, which is present-day Woodstock Anglican Cemetery A section, Van Sittart Avenue, in her birthplace of Woodstock. For a time, the Chadwick Mansion on Euclid Avenue and East 82nd Street became a tourist destination. In the early 1920s, it was torn down for the construction of the Euclid Avenue Temple, which is now the Liberty Hill Baptist Church. Chadwick's housekeeper, Mary Laundreville, took a satchel apparently for Chadwick's son that the receiver wanted, as he thought it to have contained valuables. A feature film on Chadwick's life, The Duchess of Criminality, was scheduled to begin shooting in 2020, but I don't think they're doing it right now because of the pandemic.
Yeah, pandemic done screwed everything up.
Chadwick was the subject of a Canadian TV movie entitled Love and Larceny, where the role of Betsy Bigley was played by Jennifer Dale. And in the Canadian TV series Murdoch Mystery, Casey Chadwick was played by Wendy Crewson, thus ending the story of Casey Chadwick.
Dang, so like this lady went and kind of just dropped a paper with some scribble on it, and they saw that as a note, right? And based on that piece of paper, this document that wasn't even anything, people just believed that she was this heir, like a hidden, like an, what is that called? Like a child, like born out of wedlock, you know?
Okay, like illegitimate?
Secret child, yeah.
An illegitimate child.
So people just believed her, word of mouth, and just started giving her loans.
Yeah, I mean,
wow.
To be honest, I don't know what her end game was. I don't think she could have kept that up forever. It was obviously a con that had like a time limit for it. Mm-hmm. Because loans, you're supposed to...
You got to pay them back.
You got to pay them back, because eventually she's going to have to pay them back, and then what? Then what are you going to do?
You just, for people like that, from what I've seen, you got to keep moving and changing your identity. That's what you do. You move, you change your identity. Move, you change your identity until they can't find you anymore, or they find you.
Yeah, but that's what Chadwick did a couple of times, but it was before the Carnegie scam. In the Carnegie scam, she just kept the name Chadwick.
I think it got bigger than she thought it would.
Oh yeah. Also, there was that. I think there was also that one bank that saw that she had a bunch of loans, and then they called
triggered it.
Yeah, they called it in, and and then she couldn't pay it, and then they sued her.
Yeah. And
also, her scam ended up bankrupting another bank, which could have destroyed a business with their scheme.
Selfish people.
Yeah. So what do you think about all these husbands that she had?
She scammed them too.
Really?
You know, that's what she did. That was her thing. They didn't seem to be people that she was really interested in for them. It was a motive. There was something behind it that she wanted from them.
Right.
Not anything. Not love.
It wasn't love. You don't think?
No. Doesn't seem like it.
Like it was that one. That was their second husband. She just divorced him for no reason.
Like I said.
Yeah. What do you mean? Like I said?
No love. She just wanted what she could get out of them, and if they didn't have what she needed anymore, then she didn't need them around.
Yeah. So, what are your final thoughts on the Chadwick case?
She is... That was just a crazy case. That was crazy, but I'm pretty sure that prompted a lot of rules that are now in place for these banks.
Yeah, I mean, she was like hoping on a lot of stuff not happening, like no one asking Carnegie about her, and the banks not reporting it. She was like hoping on a lot of stuff by chance.
And she got away with it for a little while.
Yeah, but when she got caught, she got caught.
Caught.
Yeah, and she died in prison.
Yeah, so she got convicted. And in 1905, and then she died 2 years later in 1907. Jeez.
Yeah.
Just 2 years. And she was supposed to serve
14.
Dang.
Yeah. Small note, when we discussed a case earlier, like in the first episode, it was the Battaglia case.
Update.
Yeah, it was the Battaglia case, and
from the first episode.
Yeah, and I was talking to it with my father, and we were listening to it together, and when that case came up, my dad was like, "Oh yeah, I worked with him."
Crazy case.
I worked with him, and he told me that he was a very odd dude,
person.
like a very to
Yeah.
himself dude. But he would have never in a million years knew that he would have murdered his family. Now, and my godfather worked with him too. They worked at the same company at the time, and he would call him Clark Kent. That's what he would call him because he said he looked like Clark Kent. And Battaglia would tell him like, you're the only person I would let call me that.
Ooh.
And yeah, that was the update on the case.
Update. Okay.
Maple Battaglia. You misspelled his name. It is not spelled the way it sounds.
Oh, how is it spelled?
It's like with a G in it. It's like with a G.
With a G.
Let me see. His first name is John. Battaglia.
Battaglia. Oh, okay. I remember.
Remember him? He shot his two daughters while they were on the phone.
Freaking crackhead.
Okay. Now let's go back to a different one. Let's go back to fraud cases. Let me tell you like a bonus one. This is a bit lighter. It's a bit more fun. A bit like silly.
Okay, do it.
It's a bit more silly. It's really close. It's like 5 minutes long. It's like really quick. Okay, so let me tell you the story of F Bam Morrison.
Okay.
So, F Bam Morrison, he was he arrived at Wetumpka in 1950, claiming to be an advanced public relations man for the Bonds United Circus, which was supposedly coming to the town in 3 weeks, on July 24th. He promised great opportunities in the form of tourism and the local purchase of circus supplies. Morrison sold advertising space on the circus grounds, promising that the circus would buy its supplies exclusively from the advertisers. The merchants of this town stacked their storage spaces in expectation of increased sales. Morrison collected all the money in cash, and after 2 weeks, he left. No circus arrived on July 24th, and the residents of Wetumpka, Oklahoma, decided to spend the day in celebration anyway and started the tradition of the annual Sucker Day with a parade and street fair. Sucker Day has been celebrated every year since, with the exception of 2003, and I'm assuming 2020.
Probably, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, this guy just came in saying, hey, there's a circus coming. Give me all your money.
And the town was like, okay.
And the town was like, okay. And
Let's do this.
And then he just pieced out, and then no circus came. But you got to give it to the town.
Turn that frown upside down.
They really took it in stride, and they had a celebration anyway that became an annual thing. So yeah, that's the story of F Bam Morrison.
Let this be a lesson learned every year.
Yeah, that was the story of F Bam Morrison. Yeah, and then okay, so now you can. So yeah, that was a little bit more fun, a little bit more lighthearted. So yeah, let's go on to your case. What is your case?
So my case is about. I don't know if you guys noticed, but I try to stay and stick to cases that come out of San Antonio, Texas. That's my hometown. So we're talking about fraud cases today. So I wanted to talk about former Texas Senator Carlos Sorista.
Yeah.
He has been convicted of fraud. And let me just give you some background on him. So he was born in San Antonio, Texas in 1963, the youngest of 8 kids. He grew up in the south side of San Antonio and attended McCollum High School, which is my high school. Where I graduated from Harlandale. That's our rival, McCollum High School.
So you didn't attend McCollum?
I did not. I did not attend McCollum. But, so that's where he went. And after graduation, he enlisted in the Marines. And then he earned his bachelor's degree in political science at St. Mary's University, where they always have the Margarita Festival.
Oh, that's where that is where my parents graduated.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. That's where they met and fell in love.
Yeah, sure, whatever.
So anyways, he rose up in the ranks as captain and earned his Navy Achievement Medal during his first 4 years of active duty as a combat engineer. So after his military career, Orista returned to St. Mary's University to study law, from which he graduated in '92. Since then, he had a private practice in San Antonio called Orista Law Firm. Then he married his wife in 2012, and they have 2 children together. And then he has 2 sons. So they have 2 sons, Michael, who graduated from Texas A&M, and Carlos Jr., who graduated, let's see.
When did he graduate?
So he graduated in 2005 from Texas A&M, and Carlos Jr. graduated, I think, in 2011, if I'm looking at this correctly. So the San Antonio graduate and corporal in the United States Marine Corps Reserve. So 2 of his brothers are also involved in San Antonio politics. Mm-hmm. Albert Orista, who I think he's a tax collector, the tax assessor collector for Ware County. So when you get your taxes in the mail to pay, his name is on there.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then Thomas Orista, who is a member of Texas House of Representatives, District 118. So that's some background on his family and his early life. So his career. So he entered state politics in 1997, special election for Texas House District 118. During his 9-year career in the House, he chaired the Committee on Human Services during the 78th legislature and the Committee on Government Reform during the 79th legislature. Orista was elected to the Texas State Senate in 2006, representing the Senate District 19.
Yeah.
After challenging a 30-year incumbent, Frank Madla, in a contentious and sometimes heated primary election.
It's Madla.
Madla?
Yeah.
Okay. Democratic activists were critical of Senator Madla for being too closely tied to the Republican leadership in the Senate and unwilling to use senatorial power to prevent the usage of Republican bills. Specifically, Orista scrutinized Madla's roles in a 2003 vote to remove 180,000 youngsters from the CHIP program, which is Children's Health Insurance Program. Madla controversially referred to Orista's charge as a procedural matter. Eventually, Orista prevailed with 56.5% of the vote, and Madla had 43.5%. So okay. Senator Madla resigned effective May 31st, 2006 for his second term. Orista faced an unexpectedly difficult re-election in 2010, winning by less than 9,000 votes. But he won.
He won?
But he won.
Okay.
The senator attributed this to an inadequate voter outreach in rural urban counties. So get out and vote.
Especially this year, yeah.
Yeah, it's important. In 2012, Orista won by a significantly wider 19-point margin. So that's a little bit of his political career and where he got to where he was. So now we're going to go into the investigation. So on February...
Okay.
Blah, blah, blah. On February 16, 2017, the FBI and the IRS raided Orista's law office in connection with the investigation into 4 winds of fraudulent fracking business. Orista released a statement shortly after stating that he would fully cooperate with agents during their investigation. Targeted in the raid was Orista's consulting company, Turning Point Strategies. The FBI was investigating investors or contributors in the company, which collected Orista's commissions for handling a former client's $900,000 investment with 4 winds. The client, and this is pretty crappy. This is like really crappy.
Yeah. The
client, Denise Cantu, born in 1980 of Harlingen, which is going to be down there by Brownsville and like closer to the border.
Yeah.
Lost much of the money that she obtained from a case involving a wrongful death suit of 2 of her children. So Uriste acquired a $25,000 loan from her and borrowed $75,000 from 3 other individuals, probably promising them other things, including one of his Senate staff members. So Cantu separately filed a civil suit against Uriste, alleging fraud after she invested heavily and in failed Four Winds logistics. So Cantu claims that Uriste tricked her with her investment and did not disclose that he received a $27,000 commission from Four Winds for successfully soliciting her business. Cantu claims that Four Winds divided her money among the company officers and did not purchase fracking sand as they had promised. Uriste denied any wrongdoing and asked that the suit be delayed until the legislature adjourned at the end of May. Man, poor lady. On May 16, 2017, Uriste was indicted on 2 separate indictments by a federal grand jury in the United States District Court for the Western District of Texas for conspiracy to commit wire fraud and conspiracy to commit money laundering. The other indictment lists conspiracy to commit bribery and conspiracy to commit money laundering. Híjole. Uriste is alleged to PNA Successors Company. The indictment claims acting Reeves County Administrator Judge Jimmy Galindo conspired to approve the medical contract through the County Commissioner's Court in exchange for kickbacks and promises of future payments. PNA hired Uriste obscenely as a consultant for marketing services. The prosecution claims that in fact Uriste became the middleman for bribe money destined for Galindo. PNA was subsequently observed by the correctional healthcare companies in 2010, which then merged with another provider, Correct Care Solutions, in 2014. PNA and its successors corporation continued to pay Uriste $10,000 a month starting in September 2006 for the next 10 years. Can you imagine just getting $10 sent to you every month?
$10?
$10,000, sorry.
Oh.
$10,000 sent to you every month.
It's pretty good. Pretty good life.
Golly.
Am I making it legally, though?
That's the thing.
Like, is it royalty checks that I made for, like, I don't know, inventing the carrot cooler?
You know what? I want to
pillar?
do that. I've always told one of my best friends, I've always told her, I just want to invent something and sell the idea and collect the royalties off of it for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Have you ever watched the Looney Tunes show?
The Looney Tunes show?
Yeah.
Which Looney Tunes show?
It was a show that came out. I think it was the early 2010s one, which was more sitcom-y, where Bugs and Daffy were living like as roommates in like a suburban house, and in one of the episodes, Daffy tells Bugs like, "Hey, what? You own a house, and I never see you do any work. How are you affording to live here and live your life?" And then Bugs would say, "Oh, it's because I invented the carrot peeler." And and
That's it.
and that's what the episode was. And then he was like, "You never told me that." And he was like, "No, I told you that many times." And then it would just cut to like a bunch of times where he tells
I
him.
invented the carrot peeler. I invented the carrot
There was this one scene where
peeler.
they were like about to be executed by like firing squad, and then he was like, I invented the carrot peeler, and they have their blindfolds on.
Okay.
You should watch that. It's very funny.
Okay, I will. But anyways, $10,000 a month. Yeah, but legally, cool. Not, hey man, you run the risk, and that's exactly what he did. Starting in September 2006 for the next 10 years. That's back to where we were. Uriste is alleged to have pocketed about half of those bribes, giving Galindo the balance. On May 20th, 2017, the San Antonio Express News called on Uriste to resign.
That's not good.
Not good at all. Okay. In a court filing, the federal prosecutors assert that because of overwhelming personal financial woes, Urista carried out a Ponzi scheme that defrauded Cantu, cited as victim. Yeah, he sure did. That's for sure. The lady that lost the 2 kids in the wrongful death suit. That's who it's talking about. That's one of the cases. U.S. Magistrate Judge Henry Joseph Bempard ruled on June 30th that Urista's attorney, Michael Watts, has a conflict of interest in the case, but did not immediately remove Watts from representing Urista. Bempard said that the case against Sorista is tied to the wrongful death case that Watts' legal firm conducted on behalf of Denise Cantu. Oh wow! So maybe that's how he found out about her, because that lawyer was her lawyer in the wrongful death suit.
Very interesting.
That's crappy. Urista's federal jury trial. Urista's federal jury trial on 11 charges, which included money laundering, wire fraud, and securities fraud, and concluded with 11 guilty verdicts. He then resigned from the Texas Senate, which is good. Yes, finally, get out of here. In June 2018, Oriste was sentenced to 12 years in prison to be followed by 3 years of supervised release. He was ordered to pay restitution to his victims in the amount of $6.3 million.
That's a lot of millions.
That is a lot of millions, man. So, he also had some sexual harassment allegations. And I don't know if it matters to mention it because we're talking about fraud, but I guess it just paints a more crappy picture of this dude. In December 2017, the Daily Beast published an article containing numerous sexual harassment allegations against Uriste. After the publication of the article, Democratic State Senator Sylvia Garcia called for an investigation into the allegations. The reports mostly were attributed to anonymous sources. Annie's List, an organization that advocates for the election of Democratic women in Texas, has urged Uriste to resign following reports of sexual misconduct. The Daily Beast claimed that an unidentified female staffer was reportedly sitting on Uriste's lap on the first day of the 2013 session. Uriste claimed that she was his wife and produced a picture of the couple sitting together at the event. So there's that. But I did want to share with you his house that is for sale in his Helotes house. So he had to sell his assets to pay these people, and one of the big things that he was trying to make money from was his house that he had. Oh my god, this house is insane. It's on the market, or I don't even know if it's still on the market, because this is
Labor Day sale.
This has been up for a little bit. So this was released July 12th, 2018. So I'm pretty sure it's sold by now.
It was 2 years ago by the time of recording.
So this house is located in Helotes, and at the time it was up for sale for $1.7 million.
Did it actually go for $1.7 million?
Let me look up the address. Well, let's see.
Oh, directory not found.
Directory not found. That's great. But we're going to look at the pictures. So let me show you the pictures really quick. So it's a huge mansion.
That is a very nice looking mansion.
It's beautiful.
It's very like Spanish architecture.
Right. It looks like it's in Mexico.
Statues on the
by the swimming pool. That it like overlooks just like trees. Ooh. Like on a rooftop.
There's the outdoor.
An outdoor fireplace.
What happens when it rains?
You just sit there and watch the rain.
Dang, man. It's like Colombian drug lord.
Yeah,
mansion.
That's exactly what it looks like.
It was like the mansion that Escobar had in the show Narcos.
And that's probably the way he was living. Like, this money is just flowing in. Like, what is my concern?
I got my mind on my money and my money on my mind.
That's it, you know?
Cream, get the money. Dollar bills, y'all.
So I'm gonna.
There's his own home gym.
Yeah, there's a home gym here. The staircase is very pretty.
What in the world? Wow. Is that a bath? That's the bathroom?
A bathroom. It's like a marble ceiling with like a dome top with this like
chandelier.
Chandelier lamp thingy going on. And there's 2 statues sitting on the sides of the this looks like a hot tub, but it's a regular tub. I don't know. It's insane. Let me see the next picture. It's just a view of the pool. Ooh, looks like he has a downstairs area where they would play poker, like the dude spot to hang out.
Oh, you mean the man cave?
The man cave. It literally looks like a cave.
It's like there's like a spot for the wine.
Is that wine?
There's a wine cellar.
Wow. So maybe we can link this so people, if they want to look at it. But yeah, this house is insane. And
who bought it?
15530 Spur Clip. Let's check it out. 15530.
I wonder who bought it. I'm gonna Zillow it.
Spur Clip. There it is. Who bought this house? We probably won't know who bought it. It sold on February 22nd, 2019. So it sat on the market for almost a year. And it looks like the value of the house also went down to $1 million.
Just $1 million, a cool million.
A cool million, not 1.7. But
It went down 0.7.
Okay.
So let me calculate
there's that.
that.
So he was sentenced to 12 years.
12 years?
12 years. And then when he gets out, he will have to serve, it did say 2 years at home, supervised. 2 years supervised.
Okay.
So what does that mean? What does supervised
It means that the authorities...
3 years. 3 years.
The authorities will just watch him. He'll never be alone.
For 3 years. And then after that, back to games.
Back to games.
So that's the story that I had. It's crazy, but you know, it is what it is. And that's one of the big reasons why people are very, very skeptical with politicians, because it's the power, I think, the power dynamic, and they get it in their head that they can get away with. And not all of them are like that, but it's hard to not think that almost all are.
Oh yeah, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts.
Yeah,
absolutely, yeah. Speaking of which, I remember like there was this baking case, like I think last week, about the former White House chief strategist Steve Bannon, and he was recently indicted for fraud by like stealing like a bunch of funds from the We Built the Wall campaign.
I remember this. I remember hearing about this, and I was upset about it. A United States veteran, setting up a fund to support the building of the wall.
And he was arrested too.
Yeah, he actually, I think he just became I think he was a victim of his circumstances. Like I think he went into this with the intent of really getting the wall built. And then it turned into, hey man, we have all this money. Why don't we just like low key do something with this money? You know?
Yeah.
Instead of doing what he really wanted to do with it. So he went with it. And now he's under arrest. He's under arrest with
like
this other dude.
Yeah, like this is the latest arrest of a person who had ties with the Trump administration.
Right.
We can dedicate an entire episode on people who were part of the Trump administration who on all the crimes that they did.
Just it's crimes.
Like we can dedicate an entire episode about that because there's a laundry list of people who were like indicted for like obstruction of justice and all that kind of stuff. So let's move on to another case. I will spin you another yarn.
Okay.
You want to hear this yarn?
Sure.
Well, I will tell you this yarn.
Tell me
it is the yarn of one Charlene Schuler Corley.
Okay.
So, along with Corley's twin sister, Darlene Schuler Wooten, Corley was the co-owner of C&D Distributors, a supplier of small hardware components, plumbing fixtures, and electronic equipment to the military. The company, based in Lexington, South Carolina, used a computerized government system. Excuse me.
Excuse me, sir.
I said excuse me. Used government system that allowed shipping costs for each order to be submitted separately and automatically reimbursed. Using the system, C&D Distributors received payment from the Department of Defense on 112 fraudulent invoices totaling $20.5 million in illegitimate charges for parts sent to priority military installations, including destinations in Iraq and Afghanistan. The fraud began in 1997 when a mistake on an invoice for shipping charges allowed C&D to make an unexpected profit of $5,000. Although they returned the money, they discovered that due to a flaw in the system, they could charge any amount for shipping and the government would pay it, no questions asked.
Aw.
So among the invoices submitted by C&D distributors were $445,640 for shipping on an $8 elbow pipe, $492,096 for shipping on a $10 machine thread plug, and $403,436 for shipping on 6 machine screws worth a total of $59.94. What?
It's like they keep escalating, right?
Yeah.
Oh, what? Let me see.
I mean, it went up and then went down.
Up and down, up and down.
Yeah. So the scheme was discovered on September 2006 when the system red flagged an invoice for over $998,000 in shipping charges for washers that cost only 19 cents.
Oh my gosh.
A review by a person discovered several of the exorbitant charges. According to a Pentagon spokesperson, the system had been modified to safeguard against similar exploitation in the future.
Okay, so they had done $400,000 shippings for threes that we see there, or we heard, but it was the 900,000 one that set off an alarm.
Yeah, I mean they've been doing this for years. Those are only 3 of them. Those are only 3 of the 3 examples.
So in essence, they messed up by doing the 900,000 one. That they probably could have gotten away with it for a lot longer if they would have left it alone.
Probably.
Maybe. Because they're making it sound like, oh, we just set up this security thing to just catch this, like right now.
They've been frauding the Department of Defense for like a good 9 years.
By sticking around the same price frame, you know?
Yeah.
And then they significantly shoot it up to over double the amount.
It's like almost $1 million.
Almost $1 million, and now they're like the system's like, whoa, pump the brakes. What?
How stupid do you think we are?
$500,000. Yeah. Not a whole mil.
Now you took it one step too far. Uncle Sam isn't gonna let that slide.
We're not that dumb.
So in October 2006, Darlene Wooden committed suicide after being approached by federal investigators. So she left behind a suicide note and a check made out to the Department of Defense for $4.5 million. So Corley and C&D distributors pled guilty on August 2007 to 2 conspiracy charges to commit wire fraud and money laundering, each charge carrying a maximum sentence of 20 years. She was freed on bond until sentencing. On March 2009, she was sentenced to a minimum recommendation of 6.5 years in federal prison. The judge rejected Corley's request to serve the time in a halfway house. Corley was also ordered to pay $15.5 million in restitution at a minimum rate of $300 per month. Did you finally get the Duo installed?
I did, yeah.
Okay, good job. Corley claimed that Wooten had been more responsible for the scheme and had received more benefit. During the sentencing, Corley's attorneys asked the judge to consider Corley's clean criminal history and her record of community service. So she basically threw her twin sister under the bus who committed suicide. Yeah. So they presented a video featuring 8 Corley supporters, including several from Pineview Elementary School, where Corley had become a mentor to an autistic child. The boy's mother and grandmother testified in court about their immense appreciation for the help Corley had given their family, and the mother said that she would bring her son to visit Corley whenever she went. Corley herself told the court, "I messed up really bad. I'm sorry. I'm deeply ashamed." Or desperately ashamed. Do you believe her?
No.
Oh, snap.
Who throws their sister under the bus like that?
Especially after they committed suicide.
Yeah, that's like a double low blow.
So, following the guilty plea, Corley's possessions stemming from the fraud became subject to seizure by the South Carolina United States Attorney's Office. Corley's spending had included, according to various news reports, at least 6 pieces of property, including 4 beach homes at Adesto Island, a collection of 10 cars, including a BMW, a Lexus, and matching Mercedes-Benz, expensive jewelry and vacations, 5 businesses, including a cookie store, and a $250,000 luxury box at the football stadium of Clemson University, Corley's alma mater. So she was living it up. Huh?
I want a cookie store.
Okay, yeah. You gotta like. Are you gonna
I
defraud
heard
the
3 beach houses too. I heard that.
Are you gonna defraud the Department of Defense to get it?
Well, dang, they were. Money was just pouring in.
Yeah, they were living large.
Yeah.
So Deborah B. Barbier, prosecutor on the behalf of the U.S. government at Corley's sentencing, claimed the list of assets spanned 10 pages, single-spaced. So Corley served her 78-month sentence at the Federal Correctional Institution Mariana in Florida. With time off for good behavior, she was released on February 7th, 2015. The scam was profiled in CNBC's American Greed and Investigative Discovery's Evil Twins.
Wow. Whoa.
So what do you think about that case?
That's crazy. Like, it's just crazy to me how much they got away with. And that the only thing that set off a radar was that huge amount. Like, it was already huge, but just not huge enough to set off.
Just not huge enough?
To set off some alarm or whatever. They probably could have gotten away with it for a little bit. I mean, I know we already said that, but wow. That's just wow. The freaking the balls these people have to do all the stuff that they've done, knowing the risk they're taking. It's like, I don't know, I feel like they get to a certain point where they're just like, fuck it. They get caught, I get caught. But I'm gonna take the risk and we're just gonna see how far we can go.
I don't think the reward outweighs the risk. Like,
no, it doesn't. But they still, let's live it up while we have it, and then, you know, because they're gonna get caught. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's a good handful of people that have done stuff like this and haven't gotten caught, and maybe that's what they hope so for themselves too. But stuff like this, huge amounts of money, like, come on. Especially from the government.
Yeah. So like, she's free. She's walking free, and she's still alive today. So, let me tell you
what
another.
These are considered like blue collar crimes, right?
White collar crimes.
Whoa, sorry, white collar, different color.
White collar crimes.
White collar crimes.
Yeah.
They're still crimes, but they're non-violent crimes.
Yeah, these are non-violent crimes. So yeah, like I know a lot of like true crime causes.
I know,
murder,
yeah, true crime.
serial killers. But yeah, we like to like have a good range of various crimes. So let me tell you another story.
Okay.
About Kristoff Theory Daniel Rokencourt.
Okay. ¿Cómo? Just kidding.
So, Rokencourt told Dateline NBC in the 2006 broadcast that his mother sometimes worked as a prostitute and his father was an alcoholic who took Kristoff to an orphanage when the boy was 5 years old. So his first big con was made in Paris. Yeah, he was sent to an orphanage when he was 5, by his own father. So his first big con was in Paris, where he faked the deed to a property he did not own, which he then sold for $1.4 million.
What?
It's like a guy selling the Brooklyn Bridge.
You know what? Pause on that. Recently, I mean, we just moved, right?
Yeah.
So, when you're looking at houses that are for rent, you of course you want to move, you want to improve, you want to go into a nicer house, and then when you find a nicer house in a nicer place, and you see that the rent is at a either it's too good to be true, or it's like closer to the amount that it should be but less, like a little less. I ran into the issue of people posting houses that were for sale, because there's a lot right now, especially with the pandemic going on. A lot of these realtors just want to give you the code to go into the house, and you do a self tour on your own.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what these people would do, is they would get the codes from the house. They would know the codes. They would post the pictures of the house, which basically had the exact same thing that the for sale post had. So it looked legit. And they had the code. And they would tell you it's this much for deposit, this much for rent. They would collect your money, and then they disappear on you. So I ran into that where I never was a victim of it, but I ran into an issue where I did find a few houses that were like, wow, this is awesome and looks too good to be true. And I would literally look up the address and see that they were for sale. And I would contact the realtor, and they would all tell me the same thing. This house is for sale. It is not for rent. So wherever you saw that, it's not. It's not right. They're
You gotta
trying
be
to
careful
scam
up
people.
there. You gotta be you gotta do your research.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what this person did.
So, what's his name again? Rokencourt. So Rokencourt made his way to the United States, and he used at least a dozen aliens to get the rich and powerful to invest in his scheme. So he told Dateline by tapping into their greed. So that's how he did it. He tapped into their greed. So he convinced them that he too was rich, playing for their lavish diners in cash. He once estimated to Dateline that his various schemes and ventures netted him at least $40 million. But this could not be confirmed, so who knows? He might just be playing it up. So in Los Angeles, he pretended to be a movie producer, ex-boxing champion, or venture capitalist, also claiming to be the illegitimate son of Sophia Loren, the nephew of Oscar de la Renta and Dino de Laurentiis, and he associated himself with various celebrities. He lived for a time with Mickey Rourke and apparently convinced actor Jean-Claude Van Damme to produce his next movie.
Dang.
He also was in talks with Jermaine Jackson to develop a line of fragrances inspired by Michael Jackson songs.
So, correct me if I'm wrong. Producers are the ones that finance the movies, right?
The executive producers do.
Okay.
The executive producers finance the film. The producers buy the stuff with the film, with the money.
Okay.
And that's what that is.
Okay.
So he basically convinced Jean-Claude Van Damme to basically give him money for this fake movie.
Yeah. Scammed him.
So Rokencourt, using the name Christopher de Laurentiis, because he was pretending to be the Dino de Laurentiis' nephew. If you don't know who De Laurentiis is, he's a titan in the film industry.
Oh, okay.
He was one of the biggest film producers in Hollywood. And he co-produced like 500 films, and 38 were nominated for Oscars. So he was using his name, and he married Gry Park in 1992, with whom he had a child with. He married Playboy model Pia Reyes in May 1996, and they had a son named Zeus. Beside being married to Pia Reyes, according to the press, he lived with Playboy model Rhonda Rydell for 6 months. She did not know Rokencourt was married, and she said he had told her he was French. He was French nobility and son of a countess. So in 1997, Police raided Rocancourt's hotel suite, and in 1998 he was arrested for an involvement in a shootout before he jumped bail. In 1996, and in 1999, in 1999, he was freed of charges of forging passports after he had bribed the State Department employees to get a passport. He was arrested in 2000 in the Hamptons for an unpaid hotel bill, then jumped bail and relocated to Canada, where he assumed the identity of Grand Prix driver Michael Van Hoven. On April 27th, 2001, he and Reyes were detained in Victoria, British Columbia, Canada, and Rocancourt was later charged with defrauding an elderly couple. Reyes was released after convincing authorities that she had no part in the scam, with much less any idea of her husband's criminal activities. Rocancourt served a year in prison before being extradited to New York and pleading guilty to charges of theft, grand larceny, smuggling, bribery, perjury, and fraud against 19 victims. On September 2003, the plea resulted in a fine of $9 million in order to pay $1.2 million in restitution and a term of 3 years and 10 months in federal prison. So, while being held in Canada, Rocancourt wrote an autobiography in which he ridiculed his victims. So, in Switzerland, police have connected him with a jewel theft and barred him from the country for 14 years, which had expired in 2016. So Rocancourt returned to Paris in October 2005 after completing his prison sentence. He lived with former Miss France Sonia Roland, and they had a daughter together named Tess. They announced their split in early 2008. In July 2009, French filmmaker Catherine Breillat, I can't read, I'm sorry, accused Rocancourt of scamming her out of 700,000 euros. Catherine, who was diagnosed with cerebrovascular disease in 2004, accused him of taking advantage of her mental incapacity. Due to this event, the film Bad Love with Rocancourt and model Naomi Campbell was canceled. Catherine told a French journalist that her first meeting with Rocancourt was the worst day of her life. And even worse than the day when she was diagnosed with her cerebrovascular disease. In 2012, Rocancourt was convicted of abuse of witness for taking Catherine's money and sentenced to prison. So, the American Court TV show, which is now called True TV, television series Mugshots, released an episode of the Rocancourt entitled simply Chris Rocancourt, a French Con, which aired in 2013. Catherine's 2014 film Abuse of Weakness presents a lightly fictionalized depiction of her relationship with Rocancourt, thus ending the story of Kristoff Rocancourt.
What a trash guy.
Really? What makes you say that?
Because, he did to all those people.
Really? Really?
Really?
This guy pretty much, that's all, he probably only thought of himself because he slept around with a lot of people.
Really, that's the main thing with most of these people, where they're very selfish in the way they think. They don't think of the repercussions that it's going to have, the effects on the people that they're doing this to, the family members that they have that are going to end up being hurt in the long run, because it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they don't get caught, but most of the time they do, because they mess up. They do something dumb. Like this guy. So if you haven't already seen the documentary, the Fire Festival documentary,
I think
on Netflix is insane.
I think we could dedicate an entire episode just on Fire Festival.
I'm not going to get into it.
There's a lot of information on that.
If you haven't heard of it, or if you haven't seen it, I recommend to watch this. This is a huge scam, and it happened to a lot of young people. A lot of young people were trying to just go have a good time And they even had all these celebrities do the commercial to get people like pumped about it. And yeah, check out the documentary series. Is it a documentary or is it a documentary series?
No, it's just a documentary.
Documentary.
Like feature film. It's not.
I don't know if it's on Hulu or Netflix.
Well, there's two. There's one called simply called Fire, which is on Netflix, and there's another one just called Fire Festival, which is on Hulu.
So I think I've only seen the one on Netflix, and that one has all the information. But I'm looking now, and the guy was sentenced to 16 years. I think he was sentenced last year, or the year before.
Yeah.
Crazy. But I mean, even in the documentary, you see him trying to do another scam. Like, he's just fires over all that mess happened, and he's just trying to do another scam, like trying to sell people tickets to backstage of concerts and stuff that he has no access to. Yeah, stuff he has no access to, and people were falling for it and paying him money, and it's just sad. So yeah, look into that, check it out. That's another.
There's a lot. Yeah, we can dedicate an entire episode on Fire Festival, because that was insane.
Yeah, man.
So let me spin you another yarn. What's his name? McFarlane. What's his first name?
Billy
McFarlane. I was gonna say Seth MacFarlane, the guy who made Family Guy. Okay, so no, he nothing to do with it. So let me tell you another yarn, and this will be the last one for the day. Okay.
Okay.
So let me tell you a story of James Paul Lewis Jr. So over approximately 20 years, Lewis collected around $311 million from investors. He operated under the name of Financial Advisory Consultants in Lake Forest, California, and promised high returns. Lewis said that he was investing the money, and he even made dividend and withdrawal payments so that the scam could continue, but was instead using it to finance his own lifestyle of fancy cars, big homes, and girlfriends.
And girlfriends.
Yeah. So the ploy Lewis was... No, I skipped. No, I did. Okay, so the ploy Lewis was running was a classic Ponzi scheme. So in this scheme, new investors contribute funds to get redistributed to earlier investors, including Lewis himself. As long as new investors kept contributing, earlier ones kept getting a return on their investment, and the fraud continues. But eventually, new investors stop contributing to the whole pyramid collapses, with later contributors getting nothing in return for that investment.
Mm-hmm.
We could also do like a completely dedicated episode on I think his name was Charles Ponzi or Louis Ponzi, the guy who invented the scheme.
Okay.
Yeah. So continuing on, as this case with many Ponzi schemes, Lewis relied on trust and word of mouth to help build his scheme. Many of Lewis's victims were members of churches and church-related groups, of which Lewis was reportedly a member.
Sad.
In 2003, investors became suspicious when Lewis stopped paying dividends. He claimed that the Department of Homeland Security had frozen the funds, and this bought him some time, but eventually the FBI was after him. After a manhunt, Jim Lewis was arrested in Houston in 2004. He was brought back to California and in 2006 was convicted to 30 years in prison by a federal judge. Lewis was 60 years old. U.S. District Judge Cormac Carney also ordered him to pay $156 million in restitution, imposing the statutory maximum of 30 years. Judge Carney described the scheme as a crime against humanity because of the harm to many elderly victims, some of whom now face a bleak future in the final years of their lives because of their living had been made destitute at the hands of Mr. Lewis.
Take care of your elderly people.
So the court-appointed receiver Rob Evans has once recovered only $11 million. Lewis has once filed an appeal, but to no avail. And that is the end of the story of James Paul Lewis Jr.
Well, at least they were able to recover a tiny freaking fraction of it, but that was a lot.
Yeah.
And you gotta feel bad. You gotta feel bad for these people, especially the elderly who just, they're just being taken advantage of. Especially if it's the ones that don't have family that come visit them. They don't have visitors, but maybe people that are bringing food or trying to take care of them, like a nurse or whatever. But other than that, there's a lot of people that are by themselves, a lot of elderly that are by themselves. So if they have people like this that come into their life, that's sad.
Yeah. So this episode we discussed people who frauded churches, who frauded the Department of Defense. Who did Orsetti?
Oriste. He just frauded
Orsetti.
like different companies. He frauded a woman who had gotten some money in a wrongful death suit for a child. Like, he was kind of all over the place.
Yeah, and so a lot of people who around this time, people who were impersonating other people, like banks. Chadwick frauded a bunch of banks. So yeah, these are some people with these very outlandish ideas of how to get rich quick.
Yeah.
So
don't do it. Invent something.
Invent something.
Collect royalties.
Royalties? Okay.
That's what I want to do.
What are you gonna invent?
I don't know.
How about the shut up? What?
Just shut up?
Yeah, shut up.
That would be a muzzle, sir. They already have those.
For humans, though?
Yes.
Yeah, it's called a face mask. I'm kidding.
Wear your mask. Don't be a Karen.
Yeah.
If you want to go somewhere, put your mask on.
You recently went to you've handled Karens firsthand, right? Yeah, because she recently moved to a HOA.
I recently moved to a nicer neighborhood.
With an HOA?
With an HOA, yeah.
She calls it Karenville.
I call it Karenland. But,
her new address
It is what it is, right?
Her new address is 42069 Main Street.
Nice. Nice.
So,
but that's it. That's all we have for you guys today.
Yeah. So we'll talk to you guys later. I've been Nathaniel Avila.
And I've been Jessica Vega my whole life.
You know what? Kiss.
Oh.
No.
Shout out.
Shout
this
out to
young
who?
man right here is graduating tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm graduating graduate school with my master's in film production.
That's awesome.
So we'll see what we'll do that. That's why we're recording it today because we're celebrating all tomorrow.
Yes.
All right. We'll see you guys later. Bye.